Okay, so we're going to look at Azure Network Security Groups, NSGs. You can control the flow of traffic between internal Azure services and external devices using NSGs. So, for example, an external PC, my PC, trying to access an Azure hosted RDS server, the network security groups, effectively a firewall, will control the flow of traffic between the two. It can also be used by controlling the traffic between two Azure tenants, so effectively two separate networks, unroutable networks that you specifically want to keep separate, but you can control the traffic between. Internal subnets in the same Azure tenant. So, for example, if you have an application server and a database server hosted in Azure on separate subnets, separate IP ranges, and you want to control the flow of traffic between them, you can do that as well. So let's have a look at the network security group. This is a network security group that I have linked to a server. You can link a network security group to a server, to a virtual machine that is, or to a subnet where you have multiple devices. Obviously, if it's linked to a subnet, you're controlling the traffic flow between anything on that subnet, whereas I have just linked this directly to a server's IP address. You can actually associate this a network security group with multiple devices, so multiple servers. So you might have an RDS servers in various subnets in Azure, but you want them all to have the same access control, the same inbound and outbound rules. So we can have you can have different RDS servers on different subnets for various reasons, but you can have one security group that controls so all of those RDS servers have exactly the same access in and outbound. If we have a look at the security rules, there's a few default rules in here. As far as the default rules are concerned, this allow VNet inbound. All traffic originating and ending in a virtual network is allowed in both directions. It's allowed in and out. Yeah. Also, Azure load balancers. If you wanted to deploy a load balancer within Azure to control the traffic between, for example, an RDS farm, you do want that load balancer to be able to query those servers to come back and report the most appropriate server for the client to access. So load balancers allowed as standard, and also allow internet is allowed out on the outbound security rule. And then the last rule is deny all in and deny all out. It's the last rule, it's the highest priority rule. So really anything subsequent to that, because it follows a priority order, so it will follow from the lowest to the highest number. You've got to make sure that your rules are below here. Obviously anything that happens below here determines access. So I mentioned I've assigned this network security group to my East US server. Let's have a look at the server itself. The virtual machine is a test machine and it has a DNS name. That DNS name we can copy, mptestus.eastus. We can go to a separate browser, paste that information in the browser, and we get access to that US server running IIS, obviously the standard splash screen, not a full-blown site. Close that down. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the network security group rule so it blocks traffic, just to show you really how it works. So inbound rules of HTTP and HTTPS, we're just going to deny. And that just takes a minute or so to kick into effect and also apply. Let me just do a refresh there. So that's now denied. So if I go to my browser again and put in the same, let's just copy that DNS name again for that virtual machine. It's the same machine, mptestus.eastus. Go to a separate browser again, paste that in, and do a refresh because it's cached. If we do a refresh on that website, you see it's struggling. It's going to time out because we've blocked the traffic, blocked port 80 traffic to that server. Okay, so that is simply how network security groups work. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, you can configure access to and from various sources, various destinations. You can be very specific on IP address ranges. So for example, you could create a network security group to bind it to a subnet, and then control access to your RDS farm, which is on that Azure subnet from the outside. So you could tie that access down to only the IP address, for example, of your London site. So you know what the outbound IP, the routing IP address is of your London site, and you can limit access to that RDS farm, so that subnet, purely to the IP address of your London site, blocking all outside attempts. And also remote workers wouldn't be able to connect unless you singled out their IP address also. So that's how it works. That's I suppose one good idea as to how you could use it. I'm going to show you a flow chart. This flow chart sort of gives you an idea as to how the rule works, how the network security group rules work. So the Azure host, the hosted server in this case, the RDS server, receives traffic, receives a request. Is it inbound traffic? Yep. So load the inbound traffic rules by priority, and you remember you've seen the numbered rules. Get the first rule. Does the rule match? Yeah. Is it a deny rule? No, so it allows the packet. Is it a deny rule? Yes, so it drops the packet. So it is quite a simple flow chart. Another example would be the host receives traffic inbound, so it loads the inbound NSG rules by priority. Looks at the first rule. Does the first rule match? No. Is it the last rule? No, there are more rules below this one. So it goes on to the next rule. So there you can see how the priority works. It drops down the list until it finds a match, until it finds an allow or a deny. And if none of those apply, it gets down to the very final rule, which you might remember seeing here. The very final rule is to deny all in or to deny all out. So really, if there are no matches, then it's going to deny.